approving amendments to settlement agreement between the United States and the City of Portland in United States District Court and plan for the Portland Commission on Community Engaged Policing.
My name is Thomas Etienne. I recently became a veteran. I came back to civilian life, took off the uniform. So I'm familiar with working late. It's part of service. I thank you for that. So I tried to think of over the past couple days what I might say that's either convincing or persuasive to reflect what others have said here, why it's just not a good idea to not listen honestly to what your community is telling you, because they're here and they're telling you. So I came back about a year ago, and I first came into the Army here at the Oregon Army National Guard. I was commissioned at the University of Portland. So from 2006 to 2015, I trained and studied and fought in our wars on terror. And I just wanted to think or represent something from that may reflect here. So what have I seen in that environment? That we went into areas where we were trying to establish security and gain trust. And it's a difficult thing to do. And we were doing it in an environment where violence was part of the equation. It was very hard to do. And we learned by paying the highest price for years what it takes in order to actually gain the trust of foreign nationals, indigenous communities. And what we finally discovered is that we cannot disregard those populations. We cannot disregard stakeholders. We actually had to find ways to turn enemies into stakeholders. It's a hard thing to do, but it's not impossible. And actually accepting what they tell us on its face value, the way they're going to explain it to you. You really can't get the community to communicate or operate on your terms. They're going to do it on their own terms every time. And it's just been interesting after coming back here, seeing what's happened here. It's very impressive, all the growth that's happened since I left. But then immediately seeing the homelessness here, knowing some of those people there are veterans as well. And then also seeing this environment that's related directly to this issue is actually fomenting the circumstances for extremism, and why that can't be resolved, why you can't find a way to actually meaningfully interact with the community in such a way that they are actually not dictating the terms, but setting the agenda for how they can actually protect themselves. So the main point that took us years to establish, General Perpetrators finally, they gave him a shot when we were desperate, is that you have to protect your populace no matter what. We had to shift away from intervention and use of force and going after bad guys endlessly to actually protecting them. And it was a hard thing to do. Maybe we had more resources, infinite amount of defense spending, whatever, but it wouldn't work otherwise. And we did it in that environment. So you should be able to do it here. So I don't think cutting out the community and redefining what your compliance standards are, moving the goalposts closer, is going to work.
So it ain't perfect. We're not all going to agree, but I think this does, in fact, address most of the issues that have been raised.
Well, I've seen where goal lines have been moved closer and the consequences were devastating. Actually, I had a flashback when I looked at the COCL report and I saw the little color bars of their assessments of whether the benchmarks have been met for the Portland Police. And I had a flashback to assessments of the security forces in Iraq, Afghanistan, and knowing that those bars could always simply be, every time when we were ready to transfer out to complete a rotation, somehow they all seemed to magically, need some improvement, but they met the standard, and we were out of there. And then the next unit came in, and boy, did they discover all the issues immediately again. And in the long run, when those things don't represent reality, those forces, we said that they were wonderful, they could take over their own security. And years later, Iraq almost fell to an internal enemy. It's a different circumstance than what we're talking about here.
Yeah, but it's a fair admonition, and I see your point.